Today I'm joined with Dirk, the Conservative Party candidate. Dirk is running to be the next county councillor for Ashford South, representing residents' views at Kent County Council. So welcome to the podcast, Dirk.
Good morning to you, or good afternoon by the time it gets out.
Just let us know a little bit about yourself in your own words.
Okay.
Who you are.
Sure. I mean, born in London and in Borough, and moved, obviously, when I was 11 in 82 to Singleton, which was a new development. Obviously, Ashford was a growth town. My mum's from the Republic of Ireland, my dad's from the north of England. I didn't want to move because obviously you know London life, and then to a complete different, didn't know anyone. Everything was new development, no services because everything wasn't kind of connected. Went to school at North, college as well, which obviously all the new Elwick one there as well. Part-time job. I did paper round when I was 13, and that was kind of the first foray into kind of part of that with politics. What I got into was obviously reading the newspapers as I was delivering. We used to just read The Sun, and then there was all the newspapers, and you were reading all the stories. And then at school I did social and political studies. The teacher was a devout socialist, but he was a very good teacher, but it was obviously stirred my interest in politics. And at the time, one of the lessons, we had 2 lessons per week, but they coincided with Prime Minister's Question Time. So part of the lesson was listening to Prime Minister's Question Time, obviously Mrs. Thatcher, on the radio because it wasn't televised. And something just clicked in the interest of, obviously, I'm a Thatcherite, and I have met her, and very good conversations, and to her obviously in later life. But that was the kind of time that I got a foray into and really looking at politics, not just for me, your family, but what he said is that a decision is always made about you. And a lot of people, I don't like politicians or I hate politics, but everything you do in your life is governed by a policy. And someone is making a decision about you, whether it's national, international, local, and you need to be aware. Whether you like it or not, you need to be involved, because the decision about your pension, about your housing, tax, someone is making a decision, and if you blindly don't get interested and just, shout from the sidelines and, I hate all politicians, we're not all the same, and we do have principles. You obviously just see the headlines of people that people have an agenda, whether it's a newspaper, whether it's an organisation. You've got to be involved. Decisions about you, your family, what you want to do. And so from that moment on, and I obviously carried on in professional life, involved in and out of politics, helping, local campaigns. And then for a while, I moved back to London, my career took off, and I was very, very busy professionally for many years. And then sort of came back again, like, early sort of 2005-06, I stood for council in London in a tough Labour ward, but we gave them a run for their money, and they really had to change the way that they operated. We got more votes, but it just kind of did, we won on other seats, but obviously at the cost of I didn't get elected. But I learned a lot about campaigning, things I didn't think were right, that I thought you could do better. I have a different angle on how I like to approach politics. Obviously my personality, my background, I think differently to others. I'm not the kind of pale male stale, I'm unique in myself, and I'm very confident in myself, and so I use that as a strength and confidence to do things differently, and to prove you can be creative, but in a way that is responsible and is natural, genuine, not just the normal, you read off a sheet and it's just so boringly long. Real empathy with people, but directness, and, not just saying things just to get elected or just say things to be popular. My professional life, I was, customer service facing industries, worked for, huge companies in retail, and obviously front facing, and you've got to deal with public, so I have no issue talking to people, meeting people, whatever background you are. You have a respect for people, but it has to be given back. And the politics there, obviously I didn't get elected, I did a few other bits, but I knew I was not going to be staying in London. My family still remained here since 82, still in Singleton, so I know the area extensively well. I've worked my first job at Tesco, which is now the Matalan. My paper round was Forby's, which was Brookfield. My paper round was Beaver Ward. We went to church at St Simon's. My brother went to St Simon's School. The medical was there. So, I know the area well. I've been involved in it. Obviously, you care about what your parents and your friends. I have friends across different parts of, KCC South, which I'm standing for. So you get the experience of obviously being outward, looking in, being involved, because you want the best for your parents, you want the best for your friends, and as long as you live in the borough and you understand the complexity and issues, that should be the main thing. It's not just thinking, well, you don't live exactly in that ward. Well, the person that's in the ward now lives in the ward and has done absolutely nothing for people in the ward. Is not visible, doesn't answer emails. While I've been campaigning now, I've spoken to, many emails, phone calls. I've spoken to people on the street, and some I've met as, obviously they've contacted. I've met them, safely COVID compliant to discuss, and, they've reported issues, nothing gets done. Basic things, potholes, and it's taken a Conservative from another ward to actually get the one on Brookfield done near Matalan sorted. Issues I've seen walking around, they're not tackled, and when you look through, he hasn't reported. And if you're involved locally, you should know these issues, and obviously if people think, oh, it's no point saying it because nothing happens, then nothing changes. So you've got to highlight an issue and you fight for the people because it's the right thing to do. That's the whole point of you being elected, is to be the voice of that ward. Yeah. All wards, Singleton, Stanhope, we've got Washford, Victoria, Furley, the whole town centre, Roman ward, so there's 7 wards involved. Everyone has different issues, some common issues as well. But you listen and you start obviously to coordinate, to think, okay, look, what can you do with, Ashford Borough Council? Is it involving a police issue that you work with Kent Police or the Crime Commissioner? You look at the privilege that you would have to obviously access to get things done, whether it's a coordinated one in one particular area or whether it's across the borough or across the county, or it's a national issue. And obviously roads are everywhere, but you want just the side roads as well to be done, not just the main roads. I mean, obviously when I've been round leafleting, I've been thousands of homes, I've been round 2 or 3 times, so I've been to every home, 7,616. I've been everywhere, so indirectly, directly, I've gone round to make sure that I've been everywhere, and I've recorded things down. I've listened to when asking people if they happen to be out in the garden or on the street, just what issues have you got. So I have a flavour. I've seen obviously for myself what I think is an issue and recorded down. Some I've reported off to Ashford Borough Council, some have gone to KCC, and I've highlighted a few to a couple of the schools and Kent Police. So from where I've been, obviously career-wise, and me as a person, I had a kind of tough time when I first came to Ashford. I didn't sound like everyone else. I had a London accent, so everyone made fun of me because I looked completely, as a different person. I had no friends because I didn't know anyone. I was just like plonked in a new area. So it was a really tough time, but you just believe the direction of what you want to do. Bullied a bit, but I never gave in to them, so they kind of palmed off. So I kind of worked a way of just deflecting, so they didn't contact me, they just left me alone. And then you meet friends and things change, and then at college the same, because I didn't want to follow illegal things or people just follow the crowd just to be popular, and I'm not doing it. I know it wasn't the right thing, and I kept my path of doing the right thing, being honest, true, not doing it for financial gain or just doing it to be popular. No. So I didn't take the smoking and the drugs and all the things that they were doing just to be fitting in. No. So my path was, I'm going this route, and, tough. If you don't like me, you don't like me. That's your problem. It's not my problem. Professionally, I did very well, and you get to gain yourself and your confidence back, and that remained through, professionally, socially. I'm not here to be, I need popularity and all for Instagram, and it's not interesting for me. So using social media in a very responsible way, for election, it just to kind of reach a wider audience of people, but it's using skills I've gained and an inner person of what you are as a person. And the people that I've met, and I'm a true person. I don't do things just to be, nice and pie and say it behind your back. I speak quite bluntly, but I do care, but I'm not going to be pussyfooting around and doing all the little silly things. Think, look, you've got to make a decision. And obviously family background, but it's essentially what you are as a person and what you think is true, and you stick to that. Morals, politeness, manners, respect, and the diversity of obviously in people in my life, and obviously London, that you do see quite a thing. Gay, mixed, black, mixed race, disabled, different nationalities. It really makes absolutely no difference. You're a human being, male or female or non-binary, whatever you want to judge yourself as, or saying this is me, makes no difference. And the people that bully and the people that attack people are generally, they've got issues and they just want to deflect. They're scared, they're not confident, and the only way they think is attack. But they've got the problems. I mean, I've had homophobic abuse in my time. I've lost jobs at work because the boss hated gay people. There were no laws to protect you, and then some bits down the line, some have been prosecuted and done. And that's a good thing, but it's tough, but you just, the same as people have been, didn't get a job because she was a woman, because this one was a black person, this one was, from Eastern Europe. You can just replace the, homophobic with a phobia of something, but it's always people that are scared, not as educated, they don't listen, and they've got problems that they just want to blame someone else rather than take responsibility for themselves, rather than working hard, think everything's got to be given to them. Well, no, you've got to work for it. I didn't get everything given to me at all. Everything I've earned, worked for, I've done for myself. You have your family wanting you to do well, but you have to take, I've always been good with money and saving and trying to do the right thing and, get a home and a car, but I keep a sensible path, and not as, we have moments where you buy things and you think, didn't really need it, but I've kind of, you calm down, and then obviously I've moved, back to Canada, been back here many years. I know the area extremely well, national politics, international politics, European, local, what's going on in my own area to what's going on in another ward. I do listen, read, ask, and it's an important tool. You don't stop listening, you just have to, what you think you can do, what you can't do, can you work with someone else to get something done, and and that's the reason why I'm standing this time, for KCC and Ashford South. I think it's like the right time for me as well. Everything's kind of aligned in the right thing, and my career, and it's allowing time that I can do things. I know, much more happy in myself. I think much more settled in, and I think I can make a real difference because I've had unemployment, I've lost a job because I was ill through no fault of my own, but things happen, and sometimes you have a path of what you want to do in life, career, family, all that side, but that path doesn't always happen because you don't control the world. Things happen and you have to react and do something to keep so that the direction is still always moving forward, and sometimes the path isn't always a straight line, it's curvy, but you still can get to the point you want to get to. So my experience, I understand people, I have a real empathy, people connect with me because I talk, I listen, but I understand, and choices you've got to make are sometimes, well, no, that's a choice you've got to sort out, that's not government responsibility, that's something you need to do. And some causes I've seen to do with issues that actually people are just talking or moaning between themselves, but they've never reported the issue to the council, they've never told the police of the issue. Of course, if you don't highlight it, nothing gets done. You can talk between your friends and your neighbours, but unless someone's got to stand up and do something, and I've done that many times in London, many times here, but sometimes people just need a push, or to think, look, someone who think, look, is on their side, but they've got to provide the information for you to help, because I can't just say, oh, look, there's an issue here, and they're going to listen to one person. It's if, like, look, there's a whole issue down the street and 10 people have made comment or passed bits on, then you can get involved. But they want someone who's dependable, approachable. I've got no issue. I don't hide behind a desk or a phone if I need to speak to someone. I'd rather talk face to face. You can communicate more and better, and email is, people can misconstrue it or read it the wrong way, so it's better to talk, because if you can tell if there's a miscommunication or something wasn't right. So for me it's the right time, and I see issues that minor ones are things that can do, but for some people it's little touches. It's not, they're not expecting that they're going to be, tons of money's going to be thrown at it. Money's tight, but just an emphasis on spending it in a different way or just changing one dynamic can make a huge difference. And I see that about thinking, look, there's a few things obviously we've got to work with, Ashford Borough Council. People just think, look, they vote, council is one council, but it's multifunction, and you can have a road that's KCC and a road part in the pavement it's ABC. They just say, I'm reporting to the council, so if it's not one it's the other, but you should work together. And I'm kind of I'm excited. I've been obviously out evenings, weekends, every day, so since getting the nomination, I'm really proud and happy to get it. I've been out, positive campaign. I'm not into the negativity by the others. I think it's just a distraction because they've got no policies, no options, no hope. And I don't offer that. Mine is much more positive, realistic, real, and you can do things, but you've got to highlight and manage people's expectations at some time to time, and it's not something that can be just like, oh yeah, we can click a switch and it happens. It may take a few weeks, it could take a few months, but at least they need to see that someone has highlighted in the process of what it is going to do. I've done things in London to change policies on parking by myself because no one else wanted to get involved. A lot of work, but you look at creative what I needed to do and working with different elements to get with police and emergency services, because it was actually blocking off areas. And then we changed the council's policy in 7 months. It still was 7 awful months, rather than some 2-year process of all that. So that chopped it right down. But no one wanted to get involved, and they're all happy to say, oh, thanks, when it was sorted. But a lot of people talk, but they just want someone else to do it, but they moan about it. But just helping, you want the community to help and say, look, this is what I need you to do. I can help you, but you've got to give me some support and elements. For me personally, I'm results driven, but with a personal touch. You don't have to be rude or nasty, but you need to be clear, you need to be fair, respectful. So whoever the person, the background, I don't care. For me, I just want a person to be decent, you can talk to, and there's elements, I'm not going to agree with someone, they're not going to agree with me, but you've got to look at actually what elements are good that you can work on or not. There's going to be some areas, but that's life. You agree, family, work, if we lived in that kind of world, it wouldn't be enjoyable. It'd be very Stepford Wives, just without all the glamour.
It seems that the current county councillor for Ashford South seems to be a dead weight in the chair. Isn't answering residents' questions, doesn't want to do anything, and just wants to be the elected representative, but doesn't represent. Now, whilst you've been out on the campaign, what are the issues that you found that are affecting your residents, and if elected, what will you do to tackle them?
I mean, looking around, obviously, the obvious one, you've got roads, everyone has to use them, whether you're cycling, in a car, on a bus, taxi, pavements, those areas you can, some of the wards, they've been like that since, they haven't changed. Some elements around Clock House that goes on off Brookfield Road, side roads I've seen round off Beaver. Obviously I'd reported the one by Matalan, but one of the other Conservative camps I'd already reported because it was just chunks in the road. I cycle. I've seen obviously little subtle things. They just don't know. Obviously, they just see a councillor, so they don't know that that's a responsibility for the ward councillor for Ashford, not the county council. But you have to liaise with. If it's not your issue, you work to get that issue with whoever the party is. I don't really, whatever borough it is, if it's Conservative or if it's another party, you work with, because the common goal is to sort for this resident out. Some about education, and obviously I've spoken to a few parents, and it's harder because obviously with all the COVID going on, and it's so it's when you do manage to speak to someone or they've got children, what school they go to. Some obviously the budget comes off KCC, but there's not enough school governors, or the ones that are on there, the credibility is it's the detail. I was a school governor when I was in London. Obviously you have Ofsted reports, it's been lesser because of the COVID, but there are issues on there, and nothing, you can look at the reports, some issues have not been tackled, and it's simple things of reading the report to think actually that's a simple win. So actually, to change a school from good to very good or okay, no one wants an okay in education, they want at least a good standard. And I've seen to do with parks, and they're just simple things, because it's not just one issue, it's your whole ward, and some it's the responsibility of the council, but they've almost given up talking. They don't see him, don't hear from him, emails. And I've had quite a lot of emails and quite a lot of calls, and obviously talking to people about, they only hear from someone when, they can tell when an election's coming, because all of a sudden a leaflet comes through. You've got to be visible, and it's, you can't be every place, but you should be able to be going around and working on a different approach. Mine is from a service background. Obviously you treat every resident as a customer, as it were, and report things as a structure, an outcome. Has it been fixed? Has it not been done? Can it be done? So you run it as a very business-like, because it has to be professional and coordinated to look at, is this issue happening just in this ward, or is it every ward? Because, it's the subtle changes that people want that actually it gets done, or there's a response back to, it's a respect. They bother to call you, they bother to email you, at least have the dignity to respond even within 48, 72 hours, not never, or weeks, and that's not nice. And people then give up because they look at their representative and think, oh, they don't give up, and then everyone's tarnished with the same brush. And we've got across the borough some very good that do get involved. And for me, that's the way you do it. I've seen issues, and I've got a whole list of areas I've noted down as I've walked around every street, driven around, cycled around, that I've already some reported, and some I've been talking. I've got a resident I'm seeing later this afternoon regarding parking. It's not my remit, but I've got the ward councillor for that area coming along with me, so we can have a discussion and what we can do, but we work together. So that's what you offer. I offer is I will look at whatever the route is to get the result. So I may have to top tippy toes onto people. Some it's going to be quite blunt chat, but to do something you need to be honest and true, not just have it for the title and take the expenses and actually deliver nothing. That's not what people pay for. They pay for you to be their representative because they thought you were the decent person, and just because it's a ward that was another particular party, you don't own it. We've seen obviously wards of MPs across from the 29 election. Things have changed since the Brexit vote, and I think it's smashed open completely wide. No one owns someone. No one owns thinking that they've always voted this party. You have to show that you are sensible, true. Don't just take for granted that my gran voted this party, my brother voted this party, my dad voted this party. It's not. You have to vote what's right for you, not just because that's what you've always done, like an autopilot. You have to vote which is the best candidate. I'm happy to talk to anyone, any place. It doesn't. I'm not afraid to talk and to communicate.
Yeah. It seems like you're not elected yet, but you're quite proactive already. You're dealing with residents' issues already. They're contacting you, and you're actually communicating with them and representing them, which is more than what their current county council's doing.
Yeah.
But one of the big issues that we all see, the town centre.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be this vibrant place. Everyone went to shopping, especially over now lockdown and COVID. It's started to die again. Businesses are closing. They're moving out. You only have to walk through the town centre now. There's for sale signs up, and the current county councillor, has slagged off, nail bars and hairdressers and barbers opening up in the town, which actually is quite good to see that there is a business there that, there's demand obviously for them, otherwise they wouldn't open. But, other local independent shops in the town are closing. We all see it. If elected, what will you do to help local businesses in the town or across your ward?
Okay, I'll tell you what, there's like 3 or 4 sections there. So the first one, obviously, I've been into many of the businesses, obviously safely. I've a leaf lifted everyone. So every business across the ward, so that's the town centre, Elwick Place, Bank Street, High Street, through the back to where the tank is, down to Elwick Place, which obviously is the new development. But you obviously, as a council, KCC, we don't own those buildings. Some buildings are owned by ABC, but a lot are private landlords. The shopping centre is owned, I think, by Savills. So there's separate entities. They've all got their own agenda, but they don't seem to want to loop up. So I mean, I've spoken to many a business to think, look, would you be interested in some sort of not say partnership, but some kind of group to talk and discuss and think, look, actually, what do you need? Because if there's no central point of getting the conversation started or what issues you've got, it could be around policing, it could be around parking, it could be around the bus route's wrong. There's many issues, and I've spoken to a fair few. And compared to other towns, Ashford is still far better than, believe me, I've seen around Kent. I mean, obviously not so much in the last year, but I go around the country, I travel, London. It's still far better than, say, Folkestone, far better than Dover. Ashford is, has got really good elements. The new Elwick Place is, that's a great partnership with the council to take initiative to redevelop an area, which is now moving up Bank Street. We've got new, fish and chips and pizzeria. There's new businesses opening up. Some have closed down, some have moved site, but you've got to look. I mean, for me, I think that the town centre needs to be a smaller entity, but more controlled. I think, look, you can't fill every shop, but actually, let's say controversial, but you've got too many streets going off where actually a lot of people, whether elderly or ones that don't have the need to be able to walk, it's too far to go that far down to get either a taxi, which obviously expensive if they get the bus, or to park. It's a mile away, it's a distance away. To think, well, I'm not going to bother to go there to carry shopping from one end of town to go to the buses down on Bank Street, where they could be shopping at the old Marx's, or if that's closed, and move to the other site. So it's almost, you need it to be more condensed, that it's actually more filled. So actually you have a better area, or create a kind of eating zone, or this is more outdoor dining in the evening, so it's a destination. I would like the market to come back in some form, and it's been good to see from not last Saturday, the Saturday before, we had a vegan market. There was food, clothing, jewellery, different people from around Ashford Borough, some around Kent, with their wanting to show their wares. There's another one in 3 weeks' time, but I would still like, there's an area there, and it just opened up. There's a lot of footfall, a lot of, safely, people are out and about eating. There's an element there around parking, because I still think people think the parking charges, obviously it's an income for councils, for Ashford Borough, but it still feels too pricey, or whether we could look at different parking, or you have a remit of some sort of season ticket thing, or buy a certain amount of shopping, you can claim some back, but just have a conversation around what would work. Obviously the COVID has moved things forward, I think 5-10 years ahead. So we can't have high streets from the old years because they didn't have out of town shopping centres, they didn't have online shopping. That has moved drastically through COVID because you couldn't go to shops, so the only options were online, and they've boomed. And then a lot of people think, well, actually, I don't have to go and pay my parking, I don't have to drive into town, I don't have to get changed. So we lose those people that would go in and pick up an item here, have a coffee here. So it's a different type of customer going out, but we want the other people to come back in as well. So for me, it's got to be coordinated between, yes, we've got the outlet centre, which is doing, obviously will do well again because of the nature of what the business is, and some new elements there, and outside dining and licence changes. But we've got to look at what kind of town we want. Do we bring some more residential in on certain parts? But for me, the count needs to be condensed, so actually it's a thriving. So actually when you walk along, all the shops are taken, and the element, obviously the opposition one, or the current leader, telling people what shops should be in there. We're not communist, we're not Chinese or North Korean, they don't have a choice. It's up to a business person and the market. And if the market wants, now, these are people skilled with a career, people, restaurants, are popping up and have done well even through the COVID. These people are skilled. My friend's a beautician, and then to be told that, she's not wanted, she's not valuable, that's her skill, and she has multiple things that she does. One that's a hairdresser, I know, and to be, with the word slagged off, these are people that have a career that employ other people. There's jobs.
Yeah, the council should represent.
Oh, everyone. This is, it's a career. The market decides. You can't just open a shop and think, right, you've got to shop there, even though the product's awful, it's not what you want. The market dictates, and people think, look, we want more. I mean, all these now bars and hedge, they're all busy. They're all packed when you want to go in, and it's the market decides. And shops, but you've got to create the environment around having a kind of package to think, look, we've got the footfall or we've got the design, actually this is a good destination to come to. So Ashford has got really good strengths. I just think some of the bits are fragmented, and obviously they've got plans they want to do, but I think we've got to work, all of us. It's not just like, I cover the town centre. It's important to, rural south, to the borough even in, say, Kingsnorth, even though you may not use that town centre as much, the hub of Ashford is the heart, and if it beats off, everything has a better service leading off and into it. For me, I'm pro-business, because these people, it's jobs, income, and the services you expect to pay for bus routes, transport, social care, comes obviously some from council tax, but it's from income that comes from these businesses, and without that, then you have to cut even more things back, or it becomes a harder option of choices have to be made, and think, right, it's a decision between making this policy or that policy. So, to have a go at people and, their careers, that's just ghastly. It's ghastly, and if it means you're against that business, you're probably against all the others because you don't like it. It's not for you to decide, that's the customer, and they're showing with their feet they want these businesses open, and good luck to them.
It seems that this county council, isn't there to represent the views of residents, isn't there to represent the views of businesses. He just seems to be there just for the title, and he's a dead weight. You can't get hold of him.
Well, soon that'll change.
Yeah.
A few more days. I mean, the positivity I've been out, I haven't, I would say 99.9% positive. I've spoken to people. You don't have to give an option. I've never kind of, who are you going to vote for? But I've not had any nasty, nothing. The odd bit on social media, but they're from people that are, they're there just from other parties. They don't represent people at all. They're just, sad no-hopers that just want to stay at home and hide behind a screen, not even showing the picture. If you've got something to say, come and say it to my face. Yeah. It's nasty. And, obviously, celebrity ones you see of people, but it's people are people, and if you've got something to say it to my face. If don't hide behind a screen or an identity that's not even you. So I don't discount those people anyway. They're not really relevant. I look at the vast majority of good people, families that want someone representing. I've been out there and I run my own campaign. I don't care about what they've done. I focus on what we've got and the positive policies, realistic, and it's resonating with people. I've been everywhere and people are happy to see me. There's nothing. I've had nothing but, a really good time being out. It's been enjoyable. And areas that, no one owns an area. It's not, the Red Wall went 2019 and it's drastically changed, you can't just expect someone just to vote for you because you've always done it. You've got to be, almost like an appraisal. Think, well, you didn't perform out, and we want someone better in that's actually more charged, focused, has a reputation of it. I did extremely well in my career in retail and management and resolving problems, fixing things and being successful. By talking to people, and you only highlight and resolve an issue if you actually tackle and what you're going to do. And it's simple things. People are not expecting you to change the world, but it's subtle things of, right, something's issue with the park, pothole, this is not being fixed, or we're missing something here, broken light. But if they think that no one actually cares, they don't report, and then they expect someone else to do it. Well, miles and miles and miles of area and functions, but if they feel someone actually is on your side, it's simple things that can be done. It doesn't take much of a click in a picture. And I'm happy to, I've taken pictures and bits while I've been out and about and reported. So some to KCC, some to come to, and actually a particular borough council because it's his area. We've seen one today about parking. So you can work, and it doesn't take much to do. And I don't understand, there's not thousands of people contacting you. You'll get the odd issue, and actually if you think if it's one doing, have a look in the area and think, oh, actually, some, which I've had an issue in Singleton, and just talking to one person, actually there's about I think about 50, 60 residents, but it's just they've all fed up of asking. And actually, a few bits I've done already, and then I've got the police one coming, the PCSO coming down next week, because they need to see the issue when it's at the school times, but it's affecting, these people are vulnerable and elderly, they're not as quick on their feet. But the area around there, they're near a school, and it's quite dangerous. And even thinking of, happened to be there on one occasion to do and think, gosh, the speeding round the corner, and how they didn't get injured or. But they've been complaining about the issue, and nothing's happened. But they will happen now.
Yeah. So you said before the interview that you're part of the LGBT community.
Yeah.
Have you found any discrimination while out on the campaign, or if not, have you got any advice for those who have found that they've been discriminated because of the way that they identify?
Yeah, I mean, I've had in the past, professionally, nothing. I think as I'm quite direct, and I'm not offended, but I'm not scared, and I'm not afraid to tackle if someone says they'll get it front on for me. And at some I've had to. In 2010, I had at the election count when I was standing a comment from a BNP, obviously when that party was around. And that was awful. It just took me off guard. And, I've had comments in time, I can deal with it. Some have had to report people to the police, some have been arrested. That guy was arrested and charged and had to go to court. And obviously it's one word against another, but there was reasonable thing, but he was done. But you've got to believe, you've got to stand up. But, in the Conservative Party, no one, in all the years I've never encountered an issue amongst members. And, we have a very diverse range. Obviously, I always think that the other parties are much more open. Well, actually, they were the worst that I've, when you meet at different events, it's not just, Conservative only, there's functions and places you go to. But it's almost like this, how dare I be Conservative and how dare I be gay and how dare I do this, thinking actually we're far more open, far more friendly and actually listening. And for those people it's an awful thing, but some people obviously take it personally. It's still not nice to get a comment made, but I've kind of learned to deal with those issues. But you've got to have a strength in yourself, and if it means talking to whether someone from one of those LGBT groups or for advice, but you've got to somehow you can't stop someone making a comment, but it's how the only thing you can do is you've got to somehow change the reaction to take so actually it doesn't offend. These people are sad, pathetic individuals, and they're scared. The most part, the ones that do anti-gay are actually gay themselves, but they're just scared that someone else, they've got to be even more pretend over the top against you to kind of counteract. They've got issues, and you feel, well, I look at the greater majority. So for them, you've got, if you're going into public life in some form, you're going to get issues. You can see nationally, you see awful things said about politicians of all parties. It's not just, Tory, Labour. There's elements of just nasty people are nasty people, but you've got to be strong in yourself and try and think, look at the greater picture. 99% of the people plus don't say that. I've dealt with things in the past. It was never nice, and I had to hide that I was upset and it offended, because it's still the same as someone from the black community or disabled or elderly people. Like I said to you before, the phobia is not, with homophobia and racism, misogynistic against women. There's all these other campaigns have come out even the last few years, even more so with a kind of more vengeance, that people really don't want things to stand up for, and you've got to, somehow you've got to work it out yourself, but don't lose focus because of one person. Look at everyone, your friends, your family love you, people around you, you've been selected because people believe that you are the right candidate, regardless of sexuality or the age or creed or religion. I just don't care about that. For me, it's the responsibility. Are you respectful? Are you a decent person with morals and integrity? And you want to do the right thing, not for financial gain. You're doing it because you want to give back for your community. And this, for me, is like an inherent. I've always wanted to do that. It's not out of any, if I do this, it's going to get me something in my career. I do it because it's the right thing to do, and I'm happy to take the charge like I've done in my local community and where I live as well, where my parents. There's things you can do. No one cares. No one cares.
So, know that it happens across the nation that people do get discriminated against. So, what do you say to those who discriminate against others whilst they're out on the campaign? Do residents who are discriminating? What do you say to those? What's your
the perpetrators?
Yes.
I mean, just stop. Someone will pick on you, and there's issues. Thinking, look, what's your problem? There's issues that you should be directing your attention to in a good way, and that's just nasty, vindictive, you're sad, pathetic lives. Your voice really doesn't mean anything to do. We go by the vast majority, and people see for what they are, nasty, shallow. They think that, that they're so wonderful. Well, you're not. You're not.
Well, we all, I've stood before, and whilst out in the campaign, you're looking at the numbers, especially at the count, and you've always got that feeling of fear or failure in the back of your head. How do you think that you can overcome that? What's your advice to those who maybe are feeling failure, and how do you overcome the feeling?
For me, I've not had that feeling, obviously, when I knew my first time I stood in 2010. I knew I wasn't going to win, but I still ran the best campaign that other people still learnt from me, a different way of how you coordinate things. It was a big award, there was more candidates, and my name was at the bottom of the list, which wasn't helpful on a 2-page document. So, but I still fought with every fibre of myself to be creative in how you got the message out, how you leafleted, how you coordinated, and I did everything. And even in this campaign now as well, I've done things differently to other candidates, which has been picked up, and elements have changed across, because actually for presentational skills I have a different mindset, and I know what I want to project that is me. This is, I've written the documentation, there's probably a small bit of some wording change, I think, fit that element in, but I would say over 90% is what I've written is me, because it's my personality. You can see in the writing. And, I fight to win. I'm out there. I've been, from the campaign trail. I work. I still have a job. I still have family commitments, and I, help my parents and people that are shielding and having a tougher time. But I've still campaigned. I've still been out helping other of the other candidates. The other 6 KCC candidates, and obviously we've got Trevor in Beaverwood on the by-election. There's a lot on my plate, but I'm happy to take the plate on. So I don't feel it's failure, and as long as I know I've been out, I've supported, I've been out, obviously people have helped yourselves. I've had, different people, an hour here, half hour here, 2 hours. I can do a street, obviously Facebook and things, but I've done everything to be out there, visible, meeting people, and I'm happy to talk to anyone, anytime. So I don't think it's a failure. And then at the count, it's kind of exciting. You do get butterflies in your stomach, because you don't control. You're just waiting to see. You want the result, and you just have to kind of look at where the count papers are going. You kind of get a rough gauge, but obviously it's going to be close. I never take for granted, but I have very good hopes. My campaign has been, real, honest, and local. There's issues nationally that some people want to pick up on. That will always happen. I'm not the government, but I can do things locally that are important to residents around education, social care, and obviously for a lot at the moment with COVID, there's a lot more people that are homebound and need care, and shielders, and this need specialist needs, and the budgets had to go up to support, and more nurses and community people. So it's changed. But I'm really excited. I said until, and if I win, absolutely wonderful, and, straight on into, what we need to do to get done for the next 4 years, and be visible and be out there, not just like, in my literature, not just election time. I'm out. I have a plan of what I want to do, and a different way of doing local politics of the people I represent. The other parties there's been even, you do read the odd literature and just think there is just so negative, nasty, and comments made to me I've seen as well, but I don't care. Obviously it's getting under their skin that they're running scared. And I don't see any good policies on there. They're all trying to go on national issues, which has nothing to do with me. It's nothing of what the residents want. They want to know, what's happening to my child at school. We're looking at, and what's happening to my gran? Is she going to get that care here? The bus routes, roads and potholes. So everyone has their own issue, and that's what I've discussed and tackled. The other people, they've got literally, it's disgraceful, boring literature, with no personality at all. So you can say some generically national thing that they're just reaming off between each ward in another part of the country. They've just stuck a different picture of a candidate on, but it's the same literature here nationally. Well, you're in Ashford South, you're not in Doncaster, the issue's here, but they're just doing some generic, boring, negative campaign. I don't offer that. I'm, realistic,
But it seems, from talking to you today, you've been quite an active member of the Conservative Party in London and within Ashford.
Yeah.
What got you involved in joining the party? Was it you brought up Margaret Thatcher? Was it a Thatcher policy, or because you had a school teacher who was very socialist?
He was one. He was a good teacher because he just he didn't put it down your throat and say, oh, everyone's going to vote socialist. He was that, but he was like you remember certain teachers in your lifetime. He was he had his opinion, but he wanted you to have an opinion. He said, you're not going to agree with me on things, you're not going, but in my mind, I'm doing the paper round in Beaverwood and reading the papers, then I'd be reading the news and business and finance and thinking, look, I was quite switched on as a kid, asking my dad, so even from an age of politics. And the light bulb moment was, Mrs. Thatcher. There's many policies I agree with, some bits you don't, but you can't have every single policy that you're going to agree with. So there's elements thinking I disagreed with, and I've written off to think I don't agree with that. Same whatever Prime Minister, whoever party it is, some bit you think, okay, of an opposition party, you think actually that's a good policy. You have to learn, not everything is coming from one, you grow. That was, I was interested in, because I thought like someone's making a decision about me, I need to know, is it good for me, is it good for my family, and if it's not, what can I do to campaign, or what can I do to say, look, I don't agree with, and this is the reason why. Not just like I hate that policy, which a lot of the other parties, they just moan about things, think, well, what's your policy? You don't actually have any offering. Certain ones wanted to abolish capitalism from one of those parties, think, well, that is the proper democracies in the world and economies are run on that system. It's not perfect, but it's the better system than being in some communist state or people literally no options, no life, no choice. And it, through life, and I think everything still runs around business, and there's the income, it's jobs, it's people, have a go at big conglomerates, but they can choose to go where they are, but they brought a skill and a service, and for ones that have moaned about things, well, look at your phone. Your phone is the technology of one of these big companies. I'm not going to mention brands. And shopping channels, we've got to look at, and obviously for some of the business locally have adapted things to compete and to be niche, or to be kind of more interesting. So my politics, has remained obviously my business career. I still dabbled, but I had obviously my focus was my career and travelling and doing things. Still did the odd bit. I still did obviously mayor campaigns, European elections, national. I still got involved in that, but I didn't stand myself because I just didn't have the time. And then obviously later in time, and I felt actually more grounded. Actually, I think it's the right time for me to get involved in my 30s again properly. And then I stood when I was 40 and didn't win, but the thirst was there, and I've helped in different campaigns. You win, occasionally you lose. To help in the team, someone has to win, someone has to lose, but I still want to be involved, and obviously been in Ashford for many years, and to get involved and to to help obviously with Damien Green. We've obviously been a few elections since the Brexit one, and things have changed. We've had obviously local county elections, and obviously this time I'm standing because I feel that my experience and understanding of people, because it's like an empathy, but it's people can relate and think, look, you do listen, you do understand, I do have an opinion, and what I think is the right thing, but I think that's in anyone, but you've still got to work with the team of people around you, at the cabinet and the county council, and with other partners to achieve, because money is sparse and it's tighter. Things have been an awful time for the COVID thing, and it's obviously it's great, the vaccination programme, which is leading, we're well ahead of Europe, but we need them to be up there good as well, because we've got to sell, we want to go on holiday, business to travel across, everyone's losing, and I just want to, obviously to mitigate, we want these businesses to do well, so furlough ends in September, that these businesses can come back, otherwise we will lose more in the town centre. But I can't stop that, but we can try, and obviously as much as we can control or to make it a good place to go to helps. So for politics, Thatcherite, but a belief of sound policies and financial sound, and the issues that we've had in the few years is when the other side is run up the bill and left a note in the box that time, there's no money left. That's all they seem to do. And it's like the Tories always come in, fix it, solve it, and think, and obviously people think you're going to come into power and you can click a switch and it's going to be sorted within 3 months. It can take years because it's like running up a massive credit card bill which you can't afford, and you have to do some payment plan over and still trying to run basic services and life. And it's tough, and it's an awful thing that some people have had experiences that obviously, whether if you're disabled or you're elderly or you've got one with children, and depending on the circumstances, some people's financial circumstances is not marvellous and they're really running on a very minimal amount of money, so any change negatively is going to impact them, and what can we do? But you need the businesses to to want to come in. People want to shop and pay the money and do all that. You need to make it so if more jobs come in, there's more chances for people to get a more secure job, or skills if it's training at technical college, or you've got to try and do things don't come on. I had a very good career, and in the end, when I was not well for a while, I was ill, I had to have an op and time out, and then the career path, everything changed. And when I came back, and normally I could apply for a job and you'd be down to the final 2 or 3, and then the last time I remember, it was 247 applications. I applied for jobs, and then the 248 I got a job of a different one. I didn't stay there too long, and then where the company I am now I'm with. But that took, and that's gut-wrenching that you apply, and nothing. You're not the right candidate, yet you've got, from, say, 2 years ago, I've got more skills, but every one of the other levels where people have been chopped, come down, you were all competing with people above you, coming for a lower salary, and it's tough. And I've had to, change my career, of what I'm going to do. I don't want to, just think, right, okay, it's tough personal time. You think, okay, I've got to make changes, and you've got to believe, like I said, that determination. Think, look, come what may, you just literally drive through and think, okay, it's bad news, man, but I'm gonna keep going until I get the right. You have to throw everything at it.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna finish it off with just 2 more questions.
Okay.
Quite a hard one.
Okay.
What do you think the meaning of life is?
Meaning of life, I think, well, it's personal. I mean, everyone has their own view. For me, meaning of life is obviously life is family, is friends, is being a good neighbour, being a decent human being, helping those that don't have sometimes the choices, but actually with a bit of encouragement or a bit of direction to think, look, you can do it, but you've got, obviously they've got to give in, as to give, to want to do something. To me, that's, we're on this, we want a good life. We want, to be comfortable. We're not expecting to be millionaires and be on a reality show. People are really happy with simple things of, they want a home that's secure, good friends, good family, simple things. It's not about the money. Money doesn't buy you happiness. Obviously, you want to be comfortable. It's just a good community of people. I think it's obviously through that pandemic, people have frittered away some of the stuff, think, actually, I don't really need that. I just need to go back to a really good core basic, but it's awful it's taken an event like that to happen. So for me, is to be with good people around you that tell the truth, honest, and, keep you grounded. I think that's as well, and to be thankful for what we have. We are very, very fortunate, even with all these awful times, and you see on the news, saying, there's horrendous things going on, and yet people moan about this, that, or how awful this is. Well, actually, go and look across into Europe, go and look in Africa, go and look into, it's some horrendous, well, they've got no choices, no life, and is that the meaning of life there? It's awful to see, it's gut-wrenching to do, so you have to do what you can do, volunteer, support, but you've got to be, as a person, to want to give back. It's not about take.
Well, thank you for joining me, Dirk. It sounds like you're a very proactive, hard-working, and you're going to get on, if elected on Thursday, which hopefully you are, residents will see that.
I hope so.
It sounds like you're going to actually represent them more than what their current county council is doing. It sounds like you already are doing that now, so let's hope that residents will see that when they go to the ballots on Thursday. I'm going to finish it off there, but I'm going to let you just let the voters know what date the election is, sure, and just brief why they should vote for you.
Okay, so the election is so Thursday the 6th of May, Kent County Council elections for Ashford South. So my ward covers Singleton East, Stanhope, the whole of Belvoir Ward, Furley. I've got the town centre, Victoria, Roman. So there's literally a massive area. So I said it covers quite a range. You know, I'm a decent, grounded person. I have my own good values, you know, and a good background and a responsibility, and I want to do the best for you in a better way than's been done in the past, and for, you know, some other wards as well. I think I offer a better voice, strong, dependable, approachable, that gets things done, and I just hope that, you know, this Thursday you do take the time to put a tick in the box.
Thank you. Thanks for coming along, Dan.
Thanks, wonderful. Yeah.